He's one of our go-tos, and love every single time that he is on at NFL Stroud on Twitter. I follow him. You should as well. Joining us here on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line to tell us what's going on in Tampa is from the Tampa Bay Times, Rick Stroud. How you doing, Rick?
I feel a lot like Bruce Arians. I think that I can confirm that was exactly his reaction last night, man.
the Caliente.
Win or lose, we booze, baby. Yeah, he was fired up, man. He was. If you could text emotion, he was texting me emotion with. I love it's the little cocktail glasses that the little emojis there.
Oh, he's got a cocktail emoji glass.
Absolutely,
like a stiff drink. I like it.
Had a couple of them last night to me. So yeah, he was having a good time.
So how did this all come about, Rick? Walk me through it, best you can tell.
Well, I mean, as best as I can, figure, and I. Talk to people that, around Tom. I mean, you don't actually get Tom very often, but they had said, look, give this guy 90 days. Well, it only took 40, right? And we know it, Noah built an ark in 40 days, so you can make up your mind about a lot of things. But I think, I think it's something that he has, more than hinted at. He has said, I don't know how I'll feel. He has said, never say never. A lot of those sort of open door things. Jason Light was going to keep the light on for him, right? Which is a T-shirt somewhere for somebody to make. But I think that, when I talk to coaches and I talk to people, they stayed in contact with Brady. And they didn't always talk about football, but there's been a lot of dialogue. And I think over the last 4 or 5 days maybe, and I know this, Rich, because something's really hot. And, of course, they were in it for Deshaun Watson. I mean, they were looking at that situation as well. But when everybody that you trust, that you have access to, goes 0 dark 30 on you, something's really hot, And so I think the way the clumsy rollout of the retirement in the first place probably bothered him. Tom was going to be the only one that announced it this time. They managed to keep that under wraps, at least for him to do that. And I think they never shut the door. I think the Bucs played this perfectly, right? They obviously had to look at their options, and they were ready to move forward with it. And the timing is not coincidental. I mean, we're sitting here now. We have started the free agent negotiating period. They've already lost guard Alex Kappa, but since Brady announced that he was coming back, they re-signed Ryan Jensen, their center, and they re-signed Aaron Stinney even before the announcement. So they'll be able to retain some of these free agents now. And if he's going to play, he wanted them to know that, and he wanted to be the greatest recruiter in the NFL, which he has been. So all of that sort of got us to where we're at today. Any
sense at all of when it really solidified? Because again, it was just 6 days after his social media blitz. Interestingly enough, a day after he could have done it on his own podcast and didn't take that shot, that he did appear on his Let's Go pod and said never say never to the concept of being done. And then, Fred Couples, during Combine Week, he winds up on Fred's podcast and says something along the lines of he's just enjoying hanging out with his family and he's sleeping in his own childhood bedroom, and, and then he'll assess how things look in June. And at that point in time, he had to be well down the road of this decision. Any idea about the timing of when he actually decided this was not going to happen?
Yeah, I've asked people that, and I can't get a straight answer, and maybe it's because they don't know. Maybe Tom will have to tell us if there was a moment, right, when he was doing something, watching something. For the near as I can figure, in talking to people around him, coaches and whatnot, it came down to this. The guy can still flat out play. He's a football player. This is what he does, and he does it as well as anyone in the world. He always has. He just finished the season, where, he led the NFL in passing, 5,316 yards, 43 touchdowns. If not for, a couple of bad defensive plays, he brought him back, against the Rams, down 24 points and tied that game, and they go in overtime. If they win that, they host the 49ers, and maybe they beat the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's how close these games are sometimes when you get into the postseason. We saw that. So he feels like he has a chance to win, and he knows he can play. And I just think, he needed that time. I don't know exactly what the pressure was to announce his retirement when he did. I don't know the forces behind that, but I think that, every offseason he does kind of the same thing, right? He takes a lot of time, spends a lot of time with his family, does a lot of traveling. And I don't think he could stomach come August when the training camps opened, not being in the mix, not knowing that he's as good or better than most of the quarterbacks out there, if not all of them, and that he could still lead a team. And that's what he loves to do. I mean, there's not many of these guys. There's exactly one of them, but he loves to play the game. I mean, I think his love of football, as much as anything, is what this is about. And, certainly he doesn't have to prove anything to anybody else but himself. And I just think he felt like he would be too miserable watching right now, knowing that he's that good and he can still make a difference and lead a team to a championship.
And then one last one on the timing of it, him being at the Man U match, over the weekend. Was that just coincidence? He always wanted to take his family to Old Trafford, or was he locking things up with the Glazer family in face-to-face?
Well, it was convenient timing. I don't know, Tom can pretty much fire up his own plane anytime he wants.
Right.
Me and you would have to make reservations, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if it works like that, but, it certainly, I think people, a couple of things, Rich, we've talked about this on your show, this narrative that there was, bad feelings between the Bucs or Bruce Arians. I don't think any of that was ever true. I know how much he respects the Glazers, how grateful he is. Certainly they're grateful to him. He brought them a Lombardi trophy and all the notoriety, and they're relevant again, and they are again for 2022. So I think they would have, listened to Tom and accepted whatever decision he had. But I think we'd be naive to think that, while I'm sure he wanted to go see Ronaldo play, and bring his sons, and that's a great experience. That team is owned by the Glazer family, and that shows again that there is a trust there. There's a bond there. And, this notion that he would go play somewhere else, I never really thought that was a great possibility. The 49ers had said no to him when they drafted Gio Carmazzi. They said no to him when he left New England. I don't think he was going to give him a chance to say no a third time. So if he was going to play, he was going to play here. And that's what the Bucs had been telling us. And I think you had to take them at their word. And I think, just the way they went about it, doing their homework, doing their research, ready to move on if they needed to, but always keeping that door open, the light on, whatever. I think that was important. So I'm sure he let the owners know the good news when he was out there. I think he certainly knew by then. And from what I understand, he's known for several days.
Rick Stroud here on the Rich Eisen Show from the Tampa Bay Times. So you just said moments ago that you were told when Brady announced he was done, give him 90 days, and he took 40, and that's how long it took Noah to build an ark. So I'm just wondering, how does Lombardi come in twos now in Tampa?
Yeah.
And so what now? What are the maneuvers that Jason Leiter's working on right now with the new league year officially coming in a couple of days? What do you think?
Well, he's got a lot. Yeah, he's got a lot of important free agents to re-sign, and I think they started that process when they franchised Chris Godwin, who I think they absolutely want to get a long-term extension with him, probably prior to the start of the new league year if they can. That's when the salary cap matters, and that's $19.2 million that they would rather not have in that form on the cap, and so. I think they're focused on that. They obviously, I mentioned that they re-signed, a guard, really two of them if you count Aaron Stenny. So they're going to have the 5 linemen that started the Super Bowl and 2 other playoff games, which isn't a bad place. They got to do some work at receiver. We know Godwin's re-signed, but they were thin at that position, whether that's through the draft. And they've got to, keep that defense intact. I mean, I think Carlton Davis is going to get a lot of action, and he may leave. We don't know. They still have Sean Murphy-Bunting. They still have Jamel Dean. They have guys back there. Jordan Whitehead is a real impact safety that they would like to keep if they could. And then you've got guys like Sue, who I'm not sure if he moves on or not, and JPP or different situations because they're older players. And I think they want to get younger on the defensive line. But the goal is, let's build a championship team. And when you have Tom Brady, you're in the mix. Guys will want to win a ring. And I just think that, they have to do everything they can, push more money back if they have to, because you take every year as a gift. And this was certainly one that, that kind of came back to them. And and they're not going to waste the opportunity. They're going to try to go for it again.
And then what about Brady? Because technically this was the window dressing year, right, of whatever contract that clearly they were hoping he'd play on it. But what the number's like $10 million? He's not playing on that number, right? So the question is, what about him? Yeah. And do we see a contract with a so-called, window dressing year to push things around salary cap that will leave us over the next year wondering if Brady will play that one too, right? Like what about that, Rick Stroud?
Yeah, Rich, he needs a new contract. There's no question, because he had $15-16 million of a deferred bonus that disappeared, and he's not going to play for $10 million or whatever is left on it. So they'll have to do a new deal with him, and I would anticipate, for salary cap reasons, much like he did a year ago, that'll include an extra year, which could fall off in the future, or he could play. And it kind of accomplishes two things, right? Because the first question that he's going to get, and the one thing Tom Brady never wanted, I think, and probably still doesn't, is a retirement tour. He doesn't want a farewell. He doesn't want the rocking chairs and the gifts. And that's the last thing this guy wants. He wants you to think he could play till he's 50. And maybe he will. I think you have to look at it year to year clearly, but I would expect another year to be added to his deal because it accomplishes a lot of things. And he can say, look, I'm signed for 2 seasons. I'm not thinking about next year. I'm focusing on winning. I know exactly what he's going to say. So that'll absolutely happen sooner than later. And
then Gronk is a formality for the Tommy and Gronky show, right? That's a
man. It's got to be, right. I mean, that's such a good thing, and I can picture him now yelling at hey, Mom, where's my football pants? That whole thing is probably going on in Gronk's house right now. Nice. Tommy was at a Strawberry Festival concert. Now, Tom Brady doesn't like strawberries, as you know, so he didn't accompany him to that. But he was at a concert the other night in Tampa. He's been working out at the Bucs facility a couple days a week, from what I understand. Bruce Arians told us. So I got to believe that before Tom came back, the first call he made was probably to Gronk and said, "We're back, baby." And that's what I would expect would happen.
Good times rolling still, right, man? They're in Tampa. The folks there must be out of their minds. Thinking that this thing was over and it's going to be Gabbert, and who knows, 24 free agents are coming, and the team is going to have to turn upside down, and Arians is going to have to start over again. Unfortunately for Leftwich and Bowles, they did not get head coaching jobs, but fortunately for the Bucs, they're just running it back best they can, right? Fournette too. I mean, is that expected? I mean, how do we put everybody back together? It looks it.
I don't know about Leonard. I mean, I don't know if they'll move on from him or not. He's got a say in that, and I think they're always looking to upgrade and whatnot. But Rich, it was weird waking up this morning. It was first of all, I don't know about you guys. I'm screwed up with this whole time change thing, and it's like I said earlier. It's like it's Jason Light savings time right now, right? Because he's the guy that's running the show over here, and everybody's excited. I felt like I woke up and it was 2020 again. I mean, it really has that kind of buzz to it, And if you've been in this league and you've covered teams like the Bucs and others that lost for so many years, they went 12 years without the playoffs until Tom came. There's two sides of the NFL, right? There's the side where you're always grinding, you're trying to find a quarterback, you're rebuilding. You have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. Hell, these guys had a 12-year plan. And it never came together. And then you get on the other side of the NFL where you win 29 games in 2 years in a Super Bowl, and you forget, just how ugly the other side can be. And that's where they were headed. I mean, with Kyle Trask and Blaine Gabbert, no disrespect, but that team was not going to probably contend for a championship. And they've got a tough road. I mean, Brady's taking a chance here a little bit. I mean, he could still play. We know he can win the NFC South, I think. We'll see. They might be playing Deshaun Watson in New Orleans or Carolina. But that schedule, take a look at it. I mean, they play everybody that was in the playoffs last year. I mean, they've got Cincinnati. They got Kansas City. They've got Arizona and San Francisco and the Rams and Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I mean, it is a daunting schedule that these guys play. And they also got a game in Germany, which will be quite an event. So, there's no guarantee Tom has another great year. He certainly can do it, but we never want to see him be like Ben or Drew Brees at the end of his career either. So he's rolling the dice, but he's betting on himself, and that's always been the best bet in the NFL.
Love it. Rick Stroud, thanks for the time as always. You take care of yourself, man.
Take care, guys. Appreciate it, Rich.
Look for my call. It'll be coming again soon. Always does. Thanks. That's Rick Stroud right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.